Yeah, are we still obligated then as Catholics to go out and evangelize? So let's say somebody's been raised as a Baptist for their family back 300 or 400 years. They're very anti-Catholic. Because I've heard some priests even say, well, under the living good life, go out and try to evangelize them anymore. And my understanding is that we're all obligated to try to share the truth of the Catholic faith.
Oh yeah, we're all obligated to do that. That should never even enter the issue of whether we're supposed to evangelize or not. This issue about baptism or who's going to be saved or what, has nothing to do with evangelism. Okay? Let me put it to you practically. There are much greater chances of someone becoming saved if I go out and preach the gospel to him than if I let him alone by himself. Okay? I don't know. I'm not going to tell you what the percentages are because I don't know what the percentages are. All I can tell you is it's a greater possibility he will become saved if he's evangelized than if he's not evangelized. Okay? If I know that deep in my soul, then that's enough motivation for me to go out there and preach the gospel to him. You see? Knowing that if I don't say anything to him, the possibility of him not becoming saved is very great because he's going to remain in his sins. You see, when Pius IX gave us that extra twist to the extra ecclesiam nulla salus doctrine, he didn't say that this automatically means that everybody's going to be saved. And that's what a lot of liberals do. They interpret that, oh, yeah, well, everybody's going to be saved now. He didn't say that. He said, if they do this, if they do that, if they do this, then they can become saved. But how many people out there do you know that actually do that? Not many. Okay? It's the exception to the rule. Hey, you know what? Even when they had the gospel, most people don't buckle under and obey the commandments of God. Most people reject it. A very small percentage of people in the world will accept the gospel even when it's preached to them. Okay? Look at Israel back in the Old Testament that Paul says in Romans 11. A nation out of probably 3, 4, 5 million people in the time of Elijah, in the height of their economy and their political influence in the 9th century BC. He said he could only find 7,000 that didn't bow the knee to the devil out of 3, 4, 5 million people. Okay? And these are the people that had the gospel. All right? So if it's hard for them to be saved, you can imagine what it is for the rest of the world. It hasn't heard the gospel yet, you see. So that should be the motivation we have to go out there and preach to them. Yes, sir?
I think you've answered it already in reference to baptism, but you didn't specifically say about babies that pass and are not baptized. But I think your general topic covered it.
Okay.
By the grace of God and God's help of God.
You know, it's not something I want to touch with a 10-foot pole. You know, in my opinion, it's not going to make any difference in the world anyway. All right? You know, God made it. You know, God allowed them to die before they received baptism. God can figure it out. Okay? I can't figure it out. And the greatest minds of our church haven't been able to figure it out. St. Augustine couldn't figure it out. Okay? And you know, he had one opinion one day and one opinion the next day on this very issue. Okay? So, you know, I leave it with God. I will say, you know, formally speaking, yes, if you don't receive baptism as an infant, you know, you're in a precarious situation. Okay? And that's as far as I'll go. All right? And then the Father's talked about limbo, and that's a great possibility. Okay? But that's never been dogmatized by the church. Why hasn't the church dogmatized it? Maybe she doesn't feel that that's the complete solution. Okay? And the church can make that final decision. Okay? And that's a very interesting thing when you think about it, because limbo has you know, it has a line of tradition following all throughout the church. You know, it's never been denied, basically, but the church never dogmatized it. Okay? So that's her decision. Okay?
I bring it up because it's come up in talking to a Protestant who, I've been talking to my wife and beating her over the head over this baptism of the children. You know, it's not necessarily they're going to
aborted babies, basically.
Yeah.
The issue of abortion.
Yeah.
And what happens to those babies? Do they go to heaven? That's the question.
Yeah. Well, I would never make an argument that the argument against abortion should include the fact that these babies are going to go to hell. Right. That's not our prerogative to do. Okay? That's God's realm. And then whenever I go somewhere, that's the gospel that I preach. This is God's realm. So don't ever use that as an apologetic against abortion. I would recommend, you see, because you just don't know. You know, that's totally in God's realm. Yes, sir.
I just want to say two things. First, I've gotten some of your books. I've visited your website for like the last 3 or 4 years. I want to thank you for all your work.
Mike,
Those of you
thank
who
you.
haven't bought these books, they're awesome. So
Thank you.
highly recommend
By the way, I
them.
may make a commercial statement before you ask your next question. I just completed the Apocalypse according to St. John. Queenship will be publishing that probably in about 3 weeks. They said it'll be out before Easter. So in case you, there's 600 pages of everything you wanted to know about the Apocalypse, but we're afraid to ask in that book. So it'll be out shortly in paperback and hardback. Just wanted to let you know.
Great.
Okay, next question or comment?
It's kind of a little bit off topic, but I was just curious when you left the Protestant church or whatever denomination you went last, what was your experience in terms of how that affected your relationships with your former church members, and did any of them eventually follow you?
You get the whole gamut, you know. Some people despise you because of that. Some people don't care. Some people care a little bit. You know, I got all kinds of reactions to it, you know. The ones that hurt the most, of course, are those that despise you and don't want anything to do with you anymore, who were your best friends. So it doesn't really matter what all the other people do. It only matters what those people do to you, because that's where it hurts the most, you see. And as a matter of fact, I moved away from the area just for those very certain few people that reacted so violently to me becoming a Catholic, you know, because, you know, it just wasn't going to work anymore. And so